So the next set of questions, we're going to dive into behind the scenes, kind of asking about maybe the decision-making process, and then peek into the last couple of years of development and what's happened. So looking at the bigger picture of Hell Let Loose Vietnam, Hell Let Loose as a franchise obviously has a really strong identity. How do we take that formula and translate it into Vietnam while still making it like a genuinely new experience for the players? Like, I know it's maybe a difficult question, but it's obviously... Vietnam isn't necessarily a sequel, it's a game alongside it, but it's the first new game in the franchise. So what were the challenges of that?
Approaching any sort of like sequel or evolution of the formula is always challenging because you're always worried about, am I going to break it? And I think what we did from the start was like, we built around the core. The core hasn't changed. We're 50 versus 50, large scale battles with that command structure. And those elements won't go away, and we're not going to change those fundamentally. But it's then about looking at the conflict that we're going to go to. Obviously, Vietnam was the choice this time around, and then trying to look at the individual forces that were taking part in our war and looking at, well, what's unique to them and what can they bring to our formula? And of course, for us, it was the asymmetrical nature of the utility vehicles and weapons, and then bringing those together and working out, well, how can we create interesting gameplay combinations with those asymmetrical forces? And that was how I think we've evolved the formula, but kept the core there. And hopefully, players in World War II will still love it, and hopefully bring in a broader audience as well for people who haven't necessarily checked out, because fighting in the Vietnam conflict is something that not many games have done lately, and it's a fantastic thing for players to experience.
And what mechanic has changed the most because of the new setting in Vietnam?
We have to keep going back to the tunnels. Unfortunately, that is just fundamentally quite a game changer in terms of how things operate, how you operate tactically from the moment to moment, and then your long-term strategical plans as well. It really does change things up. And then obviously, then we can't mention tunnels without the helicopters again, because they completely change things how work. Those are the most important things. I think that are going to be layered on top. But it is all the small sort of details, differences in weapons, differences in loadouts, etc. that make a difference as well to the asymmetrical sides.
And fundamentally, How Let Loose is all about communications as well. So, looking at that aspect, has the role of teamwork changed in any way compared to World War II?
I don't think it's changed, but I think it has. It's got a little bit more complicated, not in a bad way, but the fact that the action that we have, I think, is a little bit more dynamic, especially when you start to play some of our new game modes, which we haven't really touched upon yet. Because obviously we have warfare and offensive, which are very much the traditional, you've got a front line that pushes back and forth largely. But we've got new game modes that offer basically dynamic capture points, where you're having to maneuver around the map in a much more dynamic way. So I think communication is always going to be a bit more challenged this time around, because there's a lot more going on at any one time, and because the pacing is faster. A helicopter can travel from one side of the map in less than 30 seconds. And, if they're dropping in people behind enemy lines, then you're going to have to react to that very quickly. So, the amount of things that you need to be pointing out on the battlefield at any one time, it just goes through the roof. And this is coming back to the point earlier about why we don't want teams talking to each other, is because they're already having to communicate a lot amongst their own teams, their own units, and passing it through the command structure. And if we added more to that, it's going to get even more complicated. So we're already putting a few more demands on players, and we don't want to up that even further.
At the beginning, we kind of talked about what the 2 years of developments looked like. And so here's an interesting question. Were there any mechanics or features that were tried out or we wanted to try out but ultimately didn't make the cut, and why?
See, I've got the get out of jail card because I wasn't there at the start when all the features went in.
I remember day one, we wanted people to climb trees.
Yeah, we had... I'm trying to think. I think we had a functional version of that.
I'm glad that got cut.
I know. I'm so glad.
It was we didn't have animations and stuff, so but yeah, we had that. We quickly realised though that we want this game to be about tactics and combat. And someone sat in a tree for half an hour waiting for someone to come past doesn't really support that. So we decided that it probably wasn't the best idea.
And I guess there were already some concerns around camping in the dense vegetation anyway. And if you're trying to offer them the ability to climb trees, wow, you're making that even worse. So I'm glad that got cut.
Honestly, I'm struggling to think of many examples. I think we always have the approach that when we want to try something new, we get a version of it as quickly as possible and then make a call about whether we continue or not. And I think the vast majority of things worked and stayed.
Yeah. And I guess when you're quite a small team, we have to be quite, agile and focused. You can't, try 100 different things and try and whittle it down. So I think a lot of our designers in particular, we knew what we wanted up front. And, 9 out of 10 times those things end up in the game, which has been great because, 2 years to make a game. And this level of ambition is very challenging. So I'm glad that we didn't add any more creative features.
The beauty of live service is that we can go through any of those features. That I'm sure the designers are screaming right now, going, "What about this? What about this?" But the idea of the things they have and the things they may have thought of that didn't fit with the development process, the pipeline that we had where we were in development. There's lots of reasons we cut things. Like it's not just we don't want to do it. Sometimes we do want to do it, but we can't do it yet. So there's an opportunity post-launch for us to look at anything that did hit the cutting room floor and decide whether it's now viable or valuable to the game. So if there are designers screaming at us as we can't come up with ideas,
we do
we'll
have
pitch
a
it to
long
us.
list of things that people want to add ports. These
Yes.
aren't things that
I'm
have been
sorry
cut.
about that list, Rushy.
Yeah, no, it keeps growing every day. But yeah, there's already a wish list of things we want to add.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always things, if we just had another few months, if we just had a bit more time, we'd add them, absolutely. It's just really about prioritizing the focus and what's most important to the game right now. And hopefully, when we launch, there's going to be so much more we can add.
I think it's worth pointing out as well that, the process of making the game as well, there are things such as climbing trees, which just we realised weren't going to support the gameplay we wanted. So that went. There are things that we've worked on where we realised that it wouldn't be at a point that we would be happy with, honestly, on day one. So there are things, and I probably shouldn't give too many spoilers, but there's, as we said before, this game's going to be supported for a long time after it comes out, and we have a lot of things which will be coming pretty soon after it comes out. I think players should be excited about, it isn't going to come out and there's going to be a drought. There's going to be a lot of, as well as content, which players want, but there's going to be a lot of cool other stuff that makes the game more fun.
Yeah, it's
hopefully.
not just what you might expect. Yes, there'll be more maps. Yes, there'll be more weapons, vehicles, etc. But features is the other big thing we want to keep adding into the game, keeping it fresh beyond just content.
And licensing agreements take a while to pan out. Don't they?
Right.
We'll get onto that in a bit. Cool. Are there any? We touched on traps and proximity chat earlier on. But are there any other misconceptions online that you'd want to address or talk about? Because we do frequently read all the forums and community feedback. We see everything.
I've got one I'd like to address.
Go ahead.
I see players sometimes say, "These devs never play the game."
That's a good one.
We do. So we have at least once, more often twice a week, we have full 100-player playtests. We have to play the game because there's a lot of game there. There's a lot, as Rush has touched on before. It's a tough game to tune and to make sure it's balanced. We've got huge levels, which we need to work to make sure that the game flows nicely. The game wouldn't be successful if we didn't do that. Are we as skilled as some of the community? No. No. But that's where the open beta is like, while we got a lot of feedback, it's all incredibly useful because people do play the game differently. We do have, I think, some high level players in the studio. I think in the studio we are getting better at playing the game, but in the community, everyone plays the game differently, right? People have different, strategies about how they're going to go about playing, and particularly with this game, because of its asymmetrical nature, the strategies that the community have, I think, are going to change quite rapidly, over the first few weeks and months of the game coming out, and it's going to be fascinating to see how that evolves. But to get back to the original point, we do play the game a lot.
I think another misconception maybe is how the studio works with the balance of having the World War II game and the Vietnam game and two development teams along side by side.
Yeah.
Should we go into some detail about what the teams look like, how they work together, how there are dedicated teams across both projects?
Yeah, I can touch on it from a design perspective because, as a design team, we all work together across both projects. But fundamentally, we are split on either project and we do our individual tasks. So we have dedicated people working on Vietnam, but we talk to one another. That's the main thing. So we're listening to what's going on in World War II. And we're seeing the feedback. We're helping out with their playtests. We're playing World War II on a regular basis as well, giving them input. And when they see features over in Vietnam, they're like, "Oh, actually, could we try and steal that?" And sometimes there are features in World War II. We're like, "Oh, could we bring that over?" And these aren't situations that we're disconnected, separate teams. We are working on different products at different times, but we are still expression. We are one company as a whole, and we work together.
Yeah, and there are a few members of staff that have straddled both, both games. A lot of the community be familiar with Matt White, who's effectively our historian, particularly for World War II. But he's been key as well for Vietnam to make sure that we're historically accurate. And he's always the person that we always go to. It's like, what should we do here? What would be accurate for in this in this conflict, which I know is really important to a lot of the community to make sure we're accurate there. But also the code team has moved around a little bit as well, to support as required. Actually, it'd be interesting to just touch on something which I remember seeing some of the community comment on from the open beta. Yes, you did occasionally see a World War II plane in the sky. We've talked before about how we've rebuilt this game in Unreal Engine 5, but the realities of what that means, and we touched on before about being incredibly careful to make sure we don't break the core of what Hell Loose is, and to make sure that players aren't disappointed with, particularly if they're fans of the game already, with what they play. So while we did upgrade the engine to UE5, that was based off the code base for World War II. Which means that we can make sure that we maintain how the game plays and feels. It also means that we can, if we haven't quite got the art assets yet, we can borrow things. So yes, to the community, I'm sorry, there was a World War II plane. It's not there anymore.
I think that leans into a really good question. We've had some interesting bugs during our playtest sessions over the last 2 years. Some are quite famous internally. Are there any just funny moments that stand out with bugs that you've seen on playtests?
Yeah, it had to be the helicopter pilot that grew to be like 200 foot tall. It kind of like just fell out of the helicopter and then just was bigger than the bridge in Town Hall. It was absolutely insane. Everyone like, what's going on? Who's this giant?
It was terrifying, and it wasn't the case that it was just for one player as well. Literally everyone on the map, this huge, massive head suddenly dominating the skyline. It was, yeah.
I still quite like the functional World War II Jeep with the helicopter.
I was about to say that hopefully we can show some footage of that. So obviously before an art asset of a helicopter existed, we needed to implement a helicopter.
Yeah,
so
it was a flying World War II Jeep.
Got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. So to round out this kind of section of like behind the development, what's the one feature, mechanic, map that the players haven't yet seen, maybe, that you're excited for them to experience, or maybe experience in a different way?
It's the new modes, I guess, for me. We have we told anyone yet? Domination and Conquest are the two modes. I think, obviously, in World War II, people had a peak of Conquest.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, it's pretty much the same. But obviously, with the Vietnam twist of helicopters and tunnels and the asymmetrical sides, which does change Conquest quite a bit. But Domination is also another mode which players haven't seen yet. And I don't think they're going to get to play it until launch. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out, because that's probably our most free-form mode, where the action can take, like, it's a full 360 battle, essentially. And it's the most chaotic and most demanding mode that we have. And it's going to be really interesting just to see how it plays out in the community's hands.
And run on maps?
Yeah, that is on maps. Yeah, we've got 3 distinctive maps that haven't been visible to anybody yet. I mean, people may have seen some from streamer playtests of DAC.
Tiny clips here
Little,
and there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There was Van Ho Bridge, which obviously everyone's playing in the open beta coming up soon. And then there's Van Tuong, which is our first-time user experience. Anyone who's played the tutorial will have seen that, but obviously that's a full-scale map. But we've got Quang Nai. We've got a slice, it's not Hue City, but we've got the outskirts of Hue at the minute that have interesting areas that are very distinctive. Bamboo forests, industrial spaces and interiors. We've got some interesting weather types in there as well. We've got some grounded fog and stuff going around Quang Nai. And then we've got Can, which is the desert map, which may have appeared in some trailers, but it's very distinctive.
Minor clips, yeah.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
going to be impressed when they see the maps.
I think it'll be exciting. Let's just get the last little bits of source in, and then we'll let everyone play it.
And Kieran, anything from features or mechanics or anything that you work
Yeah, it's like I'm excited for, obviously, console players haven't played the game yet. Very soon. But the key thing for me, as part of rebuilding Hell Let Loose inside Unreal Engine 5, it gave us an opportunity to look at all of our key tech. And while we've been working on World War II, it's been tough to give console players and PC players the same experience. And there's some technical reasons for that. They use fundamentally different technologies for those two different ecosystems. So there are certain things you can do on PC that you can't do on console and vice versa. We were very careful to rebuild the core online infrastructure for Vietnam to make sure that there isn't any platform differences. So everything you can do on PC you can do on console. Everything you do on console you can do on PC. Everyone can party up with whoever they want to party up with, regardless of what platform. At the same time, we know that this is slightly divisive. Some players call out all the time. It's like, oh, bring crossplay. We want to have more players in our servers. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that go, it's like, oh no, please don't do this because I don't want PC players in my in my console server. That presumably will be better or find it easier to wave and stuff. So we've been very careful to build in systems for both server side and also client side to make sure that you can get the experience that you want. Similar to World War II, players will be able to rent their own servers. That's very important to the community. And so those community server owners will be able to configure their servers however they want. If they want to have full crossplay, they can do. If they want to make it PC only or console only, or if you are you love PS5 like Rushy and you don't want Xbox people to play with you, you can make that choice if you want. It's completely up to you. But similarly, you as a player, you can choose what you want to do. So if you desperately never want to play in a crossplay server, you can make that choice, and you won't see those servers when you search for them.
Cool. We're going to move on to looking ahead, and this is where we'll see how much makes the final cut, because we might end up giving away too much. But there's always lots of questions about what are we doing in live service, because it's a fully live service supported game, and people are desperate to know what the future looks like. So we'll go into some questions and we'll see what we can say. So in a near future update from launch, we do have additional uniforms and helmets coming in based on the Anzacs. We've said that's public knowledge. So we've got a question from a user on Reddit asking to describe what the Anzac skin looks like. He said, assuming you've already designed it, which we have.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Australian side coming into the Vietnam War. They have a distinctive uniform, distinctive hat, distinctive silhouette. We've got the classic Australian Army hats available within the game, and we've got the distinctive uniform.
And then, talking of the factions within the Vietnam War, can we expect to see some different ones in the future? Are we going to lean into more Australian or New Zealand uniforms, South Vietnamese, South Koreans? What's planned there?
This is all still very much open for discussion. And if anything, it's something that we're looking to the community to tell us a little bit more. What more do you want to see? Once you've seen everything that we have to offer in day one, you tell us where you want us to go next, because whilst we've got our own ideas here and there, we still want to have that community input before we make those decisions.
We've researched, we've referenced, we know what we can do, but it's in what order do we do it?
Yes,
Exactly.
there is that.
Players are also very keen on vehicles and future vehicles. We touched on maybe map design will be influenced by what future vehicles might be available in the game. Will there be additional types of helicopters, like attack helicopters?
Most likely. Highly probable. It's something that I've wanted to get in the game as well. Attack helicopters will make such a big difference. But of course, with any sort of vehicle that offers an asymmetrical advantage to one side, we have to then work out, well, what do we do for the other side? So we have to make sure we strike that balance. So whilst I'm pretty confident we'll get elements like attack helicopters and other vehicles in there, we need to make sure that we're doing it for both sides. And we can't just do it like for like as you could do in World War II in the same way.
And then beyond helicopters, are there any other vehicles we're currently considering?
If I say it, does it become like signed in blood?
I was going to say, this is totally
I'm
gonna
rubbing my hands together, ready for this one. Well, so if I said hovercraft, Russia would.
I'd start with APCs.
Yes,
Yeah,
APCs.
APCs
Yeah.
is what we're doing.
But the big difference from a gameplay perspective is that these aren't just APCs like you would have seen in World War II. These are also amphibious vehicles as well, so they can travel through water. So when we were hinting at before about some of our future maps, which might have more water, you can think about the utility of these vehicles that can travel both on land and through the water. And again, we're always trying to look at, well, what new gameplay opportunities can we bring when we add new vehicles to the
Or
game?
new maps that can support them better.
Yeah, exactly.
In any other four-wheeled or two-wheeled vehicle varieties?
We're already talking Jeeps,
Yeah.
but not just Jeeps for transporting people around, so actually adding, again, utility to them, whether that's weapons, potentially spotlights for night maps, elements like that. What can we utilize these vehicles for in terms of gameplay rather than just transport? I'd love to get a Jeep or two added soon.
Definitely. Thank you.
And then on the environment side, what should we expect with weather on release day? You touched on it briefly. Is there going to be like dynamic weather? Is there going to be storms or night rolls with time of day? What can we expect in that kind of map and server rotation?
I don't know whether anyone noticed this, but like Tanho Bridge, the sun sets across the duration of the game. So we do have a version of time of day already, but we want to control that and orchestrate that a little bit more than maybe a time of day system or a generic system sometimes gives you. So we like to kind of offer that flavor. It's part of the gameplay experience. It's the full frame. It's not just it's the ambience. It's the tone. I touched on that earlier on with sound effects and the feel of being in the forest. So when we do lighting, when we do weather, we try and orchestrate that experience for the map. So, for instance, I touched on Quang Nai being our foggy map, our horror themes, our kind of limited visibility at points, and it feels different. Plus, adding your bamboo forests and your other things, it's a distinctive feeling when you're in that game versus the stark open desert with the storm rolling in. Now, do we actually bring weather online? We had functioning rain for a long time, but it just wasn't up to the quality we wanted to bring out at launch, and so we've delayed it. We are going to be bringing it back. We actually got a roadmap in place to support weather. Rain is part of that. Monsoon season was a big thing in Vietnam. It would be nice to get us to a point where we can do that properly.
Yeah, and doing it properly is the key thing, though.
Yeah.
We didn't just want it to be, just a light shower. We want it to be something that can actually impact gameplay. That sort of monsoon moment where, for a moment, it dramatically affects visibility and changes that gameplay.
All snipers can't play now, right? They now have to figure out where they go. They have to move on the map. They have to maybe redeploy because it's no longer relevant to be a sniper. They can't see. Yeah. So there's a lot of things you can do with weather that isn't just visual. And the trouble is with a time of day system, especially one that isn't where we want it to be, it limits what we can do with it. And we want to orchestrate those moments, those gameplay moments for the players to give them those experiences. It's when we look at media and Vietnam, there's moments even in like Forrest Gump where the monsoon kicks in and things like that. You can't ignore these in the media, and there's moments in people's heads that they want to experience, and we want to give some of those moments. They're historically accurate, they fit with the theme of the game, they feel different and distinctive, but do them right, do them properly, make it look nice, but also support gameplay opportunities. So
I think it's similar to the discussion before about night maps as well.
Exactly.
It's not doing the blanket, we're rolling out rain across all maps. It's like, well, no, what maps does it make sense? Where to support the vision, but also the gameplay. We don't want to just rush out, countless rehashes of the same maps. It's like, oh, you can play it rainy, you can play it night, you can play it at dusk. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure that each experience is properly crafted to what makes sense for the conflicts that we're showing. What happened, also that supports gameplay.
You touched on that. If it started at night and it was a storm and you've got flashes of lightning lighting the map, and then the sky breaks and the sun rises, that's a moment for the player. It feels distinctive. You've got keyed start, mid, and end points on the gameplay mode that we're giving the player. That feels more impressive when we orchestrate that than it does letting it do its own thing. And playing at midday can be fun in the right map and the right mode, but it's always a clear sky midday is kind of a little bit dull, and it always has been. Even on previous games we worked together on, it was always a problem because there's a lack of tone, a lack of ambience, a lack of feel, very simple shadows. There's a lot of things we think about when we're doing this stuff that supports the level we're in. If I've got very little coverage and height, I'm going to have very little shadow, so I need to think about a lighting scenario that will give me that breakup on the ground and that support the gameplay and give the player something where they're hiding in the shadows, they're ducking down. Now you've changed the feel of the map than if it was set at dusk or it was set in the middle of the rain or fog. There's lots of things, lots of levers like a mixing desk that we can play with to give the gameplay experience we want to give for that map. That's the most important thing.
I think that leans onto something as well. We've got a map coming up maybe that has a variation in its waterways.
Yes, so you don't just have to look at weather as a part of the mixing desk. You touched on it earlier on. You can just chuck a lighting scenario at a map, and it's not distinctive enough, right? There's things we can do potentially in the future. We won't commit to them here, but we would like to look at seasons. We would like to look at tidal to change up a map, to remix a map that makes it distinctive, makes it play different, makes it feel different, but leans into some of the success that map might have already had. Elephant grass can grow quite short, for instance, but because of our improvements to our PCG system, we can have a version of that where it's Velociraptor-style Jurassic Park moments in the game, and you're going through very tall elephant grass instead. Completely changes visibility, gives you massive cover, but also blocks and makes a natural organic barrier that you can't really get through. You can cut off areas of the map. It's more than just what it looks like. It's how it makes you feel.
Changes the strategy as well with vehicles or movement around the map.
Oh, instantly. I mean, if you've got like a waterway which is dried out, then the tanks will suddenly get through it. Or, if it's an area that's deeper now, it's going to take boots on the ground. It's going to take longer to get across that water, open up more for boats. It just changes how the gameplay works on that map. Yeah, or even prevent, of course.
The community might recall like a few mentions in previous like Q&As and streams about improved community systems coming to the game. So World War II doesn't necessarily have much that leans into that, and it's something that we definitely want to address for Vietnam and build upon. So what insights can we give for how communities and clans might be supported?
Well, we are going to be bringing battalions to the game. They are going to be our in-game form of clans where players can group up, track their stats, progress, unlock content, form rally points, jump into servers together. It's going to be the best way for communities to form that little central hub around their community. But it was something that we've spent quite a few months on, but we recognise it wasn't quite there for day one. So we want to make sure we kind of make it really robust as a system and also have a nice clear roadmap for where we want to take it post-release. So it's another feature that you're going to get your hands on, hopefully not too long after launch.
Yeah, and this is one of those areas where in brainstorming sessions we have so many ideas of where this could go. I think when it comes out, and as Rush says, it's not going to be too long at all after launch. That version's, I think, going to be really great for the community. As you say, World War II doesn't offer a huge amount of support for clans. It's definitely a huge step up from that. But I think this is another area where we want to get feedback from the community, because this is an area we want to continue iterating on and continue making better. And we've got some cool ideas, but I'm sure the community can add to that as well.
Yeah, I treat our initial launch of this as a foundation to build upon. It's going to be a very solid platform to expand.
And it's going to be very much community request driven on how it grows.
Oh yeah, because it is a community feature ultimately, so it needs to evolve with them.
We touched on licensing very briefly earlier, so let's go into this, because I think we've all seen the question online multiple times over. Is there any chance of getting era appropriate Vietnam music in the game? Or is it 100% a no?
Can I have Ride of the Valkyries, please? Yeah, I mean, these are the questions that everyone's asking. And we have been experimenting with the tech. That's the first step in making sure we can actually do this. And we put on some tracks that weren't licensed yet, but it works fantastically. When you've got a helicopter flying through the skies, you've got the co-pilot switching on the radio, it blasting around, it just sounds fantastic. So we are talking to music licensors right now, and we are very hopeful to be able to bring this to the game in the future. But again, it's a thing we can't promise until contracts and deals and all those types of things are signed.
Ryan just wants to promise it now to make sure.
I wouldn't promise everything. I've been trying to get us to commit. We're going to commit now. You're right here.
But we're pushing hard and we're hoping for something very quickly.
I've never smiled as much. The best example we got of this was Seb, the QA lead, was he said, I've never been more scared of a certain theme and style of music being played, and he couldn't see where it was, and he was panicking because he knew it was a heli. But it wasn't the sound of a heli, it was the sound of the music playing.
Yeah.
And I think actually just adding on to that, let's say we get licensed music into the game, we also need to consider the requests and the features around streamers, because obviously as a large streaming population, so maybe we should talk a little bit about how we plan to support the streaming community as well.
I mean, we'll be adding the necessary streamer options to ensure that they can turn off that locally, because of course we don't want people's videos getting axed from YouTube or being demonetized. That's important that the community have the control over the game, so they're not showing names, content, music, whatever it is that could get them delisted. So yeah, we'll make sure we have those options in.
So we're really not far from launch now. And we got a question from Ironheart, one of the war correspondents. When can we expect a Hell Let Loose Vietnam roadmap for 26 and 27?
That's not up to me. I've
got the dates. I've got the dates in case no one knew.
I thought that was the next meeting.
Hopefully they don't move. So I think we've got a teaser coming out early August. Which
around launch?
Just before launch, I think, if we stick to the plan, and then a full reveal on the 19th straight after. So we'll commit to that, and then the hand is forced for a full roadmap reveal on 19th of August.
No pressure.
It's something we're actively discussing. In fact, this afternoon we're
trying to get things locked in. Right. Yeah.
So here's the next meeting.
And the live service plan and the content, it is fully underway. Like, people probably don't realise how soon and far ahead you have to get on live service plan development. So to just expand upon that, what is our overall goal for development on Hell Let Loose Vietnam? As in, what are the main features or content that we want to add to Vietnam over the next few years?
Expand the content base. I mean, that's something you have to do. You have to have that range of variety of maps, weapons, etc. But I think our primary goal is actually to evolve the core gameplay. Is not remain static. Ultimately, it's less about just adding in a few bits of things that will keep it fresh for a few more weeks. We want things that actually kind of mix up the formula and make it more exciting. And actually want you to go back and play all the old content. It's like introducing the weather. Adding in any new systems that can then work on the old maps as well. It's another reason to go back. You're not just playing the new ones or just playing your favorite one. You're able to enjoy all the maps as if they're new all again.
Ryan, anything from an art perspective, goals for the next few years?
I mean, we've got things. There are things that we've talked about with regards to features that just aren't viable. We're talking. I won't say too many of the things that we're talking about right now, but some of the things that I want to see is the game evolve to be more polished, to be more refined, to be more performant. There's things that I've been doing to support you and the team that have been working with the performance side. We're always going to be striving to improve and enhance the game we have. The new content, some of the things that might have hit the cutting room floor, weather is a great example of that. But changing the player feel and the experience is the most important thing. That's that refresh.
Yeah,
I come back in and it feels like I'm playing a new game. There's many games that have done this really successfully in the past. Some that were magnificent in how they've evolved their content and made the game significantly better. We've all worked on previous games together that has done the same thing. So this isn't new. Any new things that we're treading here. This is game development. If a game's static, it dies by that. So the game has to evolve. It's an online game. We've got a very large audience. We need to keep evolving the game with the audience. The audience can change. The audience evolves in their taste as well. So there's things we want to achieve, but also we want to listen to the audience and improve.
And for me, we've enhanced the ability to collect information when things go wrong. So, like I say, we were very pleased in the open beta how stable the game was. Yes, we've talked about performance issues and stuff like that, but the stability of the game is really good, client and server side. But like any online game, there are edge cases, and there will be things that come up. And so my commitment is to never stop making that better. Looking at the information that comes in, but also listening to the community and making sure we make the game better each release.
Yeah, and on top of that as well, there's a long list of kind of quality of life. It's small things, but it's the little options that can make all the difference. And again, I want to listen to the community at launch and understand what the needs, what little kind of switches or toggles that we didn't get in for launch that the community really want. And these are things we can introduce post-release as well.
Great. Before we wrap up, I'm going to ask each of you the same question. Looking ahead to launch, what's the one thing you're most excited for players to experience? Kieran, should we start with you?
I thought I'd have time to think about this.
No, we're going to go straight in. The programming team have had months creating and improving so many features and assets that we've got. Is there anything that you're just most excited for the players to get in the hands that the team have been working on?
Well, the most obvious thing which players haven't had opportunity right now is those online features across all platforms. Which is new. The ability to play with whoever you want to play with. But at the same time, it's there's a lot of things that players have played with already that have also changed massively. I'm really happy with where we've got helicopters to. Again, as Rich said before, they've been iterated and improved on since the open beta. One thing which I didn't fully mention before was one of the issues we had in the open beta was there was a server-side performance issue as well that was causing regular desyncs for both players and vehicles, and particularly on high-load servers, which they all were because, thank you, lots of people played. Particularly in helicopters, that was most noticeably felt. The helicopter might have felt, slightly sluggish or not handling as you might expect. That has now all been resolved. The server is running really, really quite well right now. So yeah, I look forward to people just jumping in, playing, feeling honestly, the smoothest Hell Let Loose experience yet.
Ryan, anything from you? Favourite environment or a weapon or a visual at all?
My favourite moment, and it's as a game developer more than anything, is reading those user stories of that moment that the battlefield turned and they won their CP, or the moment that they saved their mates because they were asked to be reinforced and they got in there. Those moments, those water cooler moments that players share virally, or it's on a video or whatever, you've made a good experience when you see them. And if you see a lot of them, that's quite satisfying. So I'm a little bit less the game and more just a sense of satisfaction. If we've made the game we hope we have, we're going to see a lot of that, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing the most.
Ryan's totally stolen my answer.
I'm sorry.
It is.
Say something about maps.
It is. It is those dynamic and emergent moments. There's things that we can't plan for as developers. Yeah. We've given them the maps, the weapons, the tools, and all these things, but it's about how they utilize them and those emergent moments that can happen. It's like the napalm moment that you guys mentioned before. when that first happened, it was genuinely quite shocking. And it's those moments of, oh my God, that's just like blown up next to me and I've got to get out of here quickly. It's those sort of moments that you want to share, on YouTube and with friends, and it's the moments that you can't recreate in any other game.
And the team are always sharing clips from online. I mean, it was only a few weeks ago I shared a clip from a helicopter pilot that was flying so smoothly and quickly and then under the bridge.
Yeah.
And we all realised how we
We'd
don't
never
have
seen
that
it.
skill set. So we need him for some trailer work.
Yeah,
But,
definitely.
I don't know. We've got some pretty good helicopter pilots. I think you're a pretty good rusher, right?
I'm all right. I'm not on the pad.
You were flying through the other day on PS5, Xbox, and
I was.
yeah.
Played multiple consoles at once. That's,
Brilliant. I think we're about there. So thank you everyone for joining us and everyone who submitted questions. Hopefully we answered quite a lot of the things that we're seeing online. I know we probably didn't get to every question possible today, but this won't be hopefully the last developer Q&A that we have. But we will continue sharing updates obviously as we get closer to launch and obviously post-launch with our live service roadmap. So obviously keep an eye on our channels and I guess we'll see you all in Vietnam.